Hello guys and welcome back to another video, and today I woke up and I was like, what alt history should I do today, since y'all absolutely loved my last alternative history. And I'm like, wanna know what else is popular? World War II. And then I'm like, what aspect would be funny to look into for an alternate history? And I'm like, what if when the Soviets and the Germans split Poland, the Soviets just kinda went through and attacked the Germans as well? So, before we get into this scenario, I don't think it's going to be necessarily realistic, because the Soviets were going to be waiting for the Germans to lose their mighty power. But, let's just get into the scenario. Probably should have picked the map after they took Poland, but I'll just drop a rough border of what it would look like. The Germans would absolutely take all this stuff. Type. White. Yeah, that. Also, my uploads might be a little bit off because I'm about to have 1 week left of my little vacation. My winter break away from school. So you gotta understand that I have school for those who are new. So yeah. So the Soviets and the Germans have split Poland. I'm going to say that the Soviets would first get the Baltics under their control. I mean, that wouldn't be necessarily hard for them. They've literally done worse things in this time, which would be a breeze for them. Now the Soviets are building up their army to attack Germany. Well then, what's Germany doing? Germany just took care of Poland, so they're on the war with France, so they're steaming down Benelux. They're steaming them down, they're steamrolling down, because that's what the Germans like to do in World War II, is roll down Benelux. So they roll down Benelux, and now they're going into France. Now the British will obviously be involved here, but now what will the Germans do? I don't see any reason why I still couldn't just kick out the British and capture Paris, causing France to surrender. This would be a big win for the Germans, and the Soviets would be like, okay, now they may be a bit more powerful, but I'll have the British on my side, so this will be interesting to simulate. You know what? Let's get started with the coloring in. Germany will be declared war on. The Soviets would be declaring war on the Germans. You know, they might not be at war with Finland. I'm gonna assume that they're not at war with Finland. The British will also get involved because they were involved against the Germans in our timeline, and they already declared war on the Germans. Wrong color though. The wrong color. They're not on the same side as the Germans, they're on the opposite side. They hate the Germans here. So, Soviet forces will start to push into Germany. This wasn't unexpected by the Germans. They had some fortifications up, but not too much to really push back any Soviet advancements. Soviets would make significant progress before the Germans would start to slow them down. From here, they just decided to invade all of the Slovakian puppet. And while they're distracted, the British would attempt to make a naval landing here, which would do wonders for a little bit, but then they would get propelled back. Then they would recruit a bunch more troops and do a take two, this time on Brittany, which would go successful, giving them an upper hand in the west. Don't think that they would get into Belgium though, because first they need to get France back. That's the west's goal. But now that the Germans are occupied on two fronts, it's going to be harder for them to manage both the fronts. So the Russians will push closer, the Soviets I mean, they will push closer. And while the Germans are trying to defend that, the Brits will go closer. And they will eventually recapture Paris, causing France to once again be on Allied control. This is going to go horrible for the Germans, and this video is probably going to be more likely the aftermath of this. But now we have the race to Berlin. The Soviets wouldn't waste much time and would push all the way in. They'd definitely get to Berlin first, and they would try to occupy more territories. The Allies would then go and focus in on Benelux, because Benelux is more important than just going in and competing with the Soviets real quick. They would both go in and occupy some land, stopping the Germans. Now, the Germans were very powerful in World War II, but I seriously doubt they could deal with two powers, the Soviets and the British, right there at once. It's just, yeah, they're not competing with those two powers. It would take them years to do this, but it would happen. So now, there's one thing we really have to discuss, and that is what will the peace deal look like. For the most part, I think that this land would probably go over and be annexed into the Soviet Union in this timeline. I feel like with a more secure victory, they would want to annex some land and create a Polish-Soviet Republic. Now, I know the borders aren't good. I'm not good at borders. Maybe they get more land, like right here. I don't know, I suck at borders. It's my #1 weakness on this channel. Just ask my Discord also. By the way, Discord link in the description down below. But now, you know what, that is bugging me, so I'll give that to the Germans. Germans will get that little piece of land right there. What will the West do? I feel like the West would try to set up a German government right here with their occupied territories, which would be basically the Rhine Republic or something. And then the Soviets would just divide theirs in two, because they've also been sick of the Germans. So I guess we'll have like Austria back. They were like white though on the map before. I guess we'll have a Germany, but communist. This is the rough estimate of the borders after the war. Now I'll discuss what also the borders could have been. The borders also could have been negotiated how they were in our timeline, causing not Polish annexation into the Soviet Union, but rather just a return to our timeline. Just a teeny bit faster, and without American intervention. But I do feel like there's always a way to get the modern day borders in these alternative histories. That's just my opinion though. Maybe it could always go a different way, but I feel like those borders, or the ones that the Allies first proposed, I feel like those would be more likely over this, but I like to do me some more interesting alternative history, so this is what we will do. So after the war, we will have a Cold War in Europe. The Austrians and the Germans in the Rhine, they want to unite into Germany once again. But nobody wants to let them. I wonder why. Also, Austria and that Slovakian puppet unites, I guess. Now they like long Czechoslovakia before Czechoslovakia even exists. Austria, Slovakia. A new thing to put on Reddit or something, I don't know. Austria, Slovakia is a new one. Not realistic in the slightest, but I'm having some fun here, okay? This is like a woo-woo video. Don't take anything too seriously here. But what could happen in the Balkans? I feel like the Balkans would be a little bit of a mess after this. The great powers would be more focused on the Soviets, allowing them to do more in the Balkans. I feel like a third Balkan War would be inevitable, because about everybody has land goals on Yugoslavia. Sorry, Yugoslavia, it isn't personal. So the Hungarians, the Romanians, and the Bulgarians, despite not being on the best relations, would push down into Yugoslavia. And if you're wondering, well, why would they specifically, like, these guys aren't the best aligned? Well, in the first two Balkan Wars, they came together even though they didn't like each other too much. So I hope that clears some of the nonsense out of this. And it's not fully justified that this would happen, but again, we having fun over here. Yugoslavia would be like friggin' nearly demolished, probably around these borders, except Macedonia would be Bulgarian. So it would be around then. And that's when Italy would join in to defend Yugoslavia. And they would push in and do minimal land gains. Sure, that would stop the encirclement and push them back a little bit, but Italy isn't that competent. I mean, they couldn't handle Greece alone. So, I feel like they just go back and push into Italy a little bit. And over a year's worth, Yugoslavia will be captured. And now they just have to take out Italy, who decided to join the war to try to bully Yugoslavia. But now, Italy's just getting dunked on. But now is when the great powers would be here and they'd be like, hold on, this would be hugely bad for the balance of power. Can you guys please stop? Else we join the war. So they have to negotiate a peace deal. Also, I saw a comment last video that's like possible Guys, we have possible history at home. Possible history at home. I just have his maps and do alternative history instead of like, you know, traditional mapping. Like what if, I don't know, Italy formed an empire? I already did that video, but that's besides the point. The British would have no idea what they're doing because they're arbitrating this peace deal, by the way. So the British would just assign territory, I guess. Like the British have had a slight idea what everybody else wants in history. The Bulgarians would just dominate here. Like the Bulgarians would speak clearly enough for the Brits to understand what they want, leaving us with this Yugoslavia that looks horribly mutated. Good lord, they're gonna need some help. I wouldn't be surprised if Yugoslavia just straight up collapsed here. That would be expected. But now we have Bulgaria and Romania, and they're not either on the best relations, but things are gonna be calm for now. Until the Soviets want to do World War III. But more realistic, they want to go after Finland. Because let's be honest, World War III, nobody wins. We all know that by now. And so would the Soviets, because I feel like the Americans would still build the nuclear bombs and they would both know about nuclear bombs and obtain nuclear bombs, so they'll both know about how bad they are. So the Soviet forces would push into Finland. They would try to make a naval landing here, which would quickly get stalled out. They'll go around there, but the Finnish would push back again. It's clear that the Soviets and the Finnish will be in a war for the next 100 years if none of them change their tactic. And so the Soviets will change their tactic a little bit. But, you know, Stalin had his great purges and all, so I don't feel like the result would be changed too much. So we just have to slightly shift the border a little. I guess in the favor of the Soviets, they had more land. Yay, the Soviets gained a sliver of land. What a great win for the motherland. Guys, look how big the Soviet Union is. So this is where I'll end the video. I would like to know other events that would happen, like, for example, the Soviet Union would collapse and Poland would look majorly different. I mean, that's a given, right? We all should know that by now. And Germany would reunify, and if Austria reunifies with it, then that will be some horrible borders. But they'll probably split Slovakia off into its own country anyways. But that's about it. Remember, you can join the Discord, link in the description. And if you guys wanted to comment, just comment. Like, you guys are fine to, like, comment huge paragraphs and lore drops, like, explaining how this could or couldn't work, because that helps with the conversation around the topic. Anyways, goodbye.